This week on Diplomatic Channel, U.S. President Donald Trump makes history as the first U.S. president to enter to North Korea and hold talks with leader Kim Jong-un. We'll be discussing the meaning of this and where America moves from here. Plus, a truce between the U.S. and China over the trade war that has got the world leaders heaving a sigh of relief. Welcome to another edition of Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. Let's begin with a quick check on other discussions in diplomatic circles. EU leaders met on Sunday in Brussels for talks to decide who should get the union's top jobs. Reports say the current favourite for Commission President is Dutch centre-left politician Frans Timmermans, who is Mr. Jean-Claude Juncker's deputy. The summit on Sunday was called because EU leaders failed on June 20 to agree on candidates for the Commission President's job and other top posts, which are the European Council President, High Representative for Foreign Policy, European President and European Central Bank President. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Theresa May also attended the Brussels meeting. She took time to reflect on months of tough Brexit negotiations, but said Britain's relationship with other members will remain important in the future. Members of Mrs May's Conservative Party are preparing to pick her successor, who is expected to be announced on July 23rd. And with no summit scheduled in the interim, the latest meeting to distribute the top jobs for the EU's institutions is set to be the last.
Well, first of all, this is likely to be my last EU Council meeting, and obviously during the time that I've been attending these EU Council meetings, we've been discussing some of the key challenges facing not just Europe but the wider world as well. And of course we've had some tough and long discussions about Brexit. We've also talked about how we can protect and maintain our shared prosperity and security. Tonight we will be discussing the issue of the jobs at those who head the EU institutions. I'm looking forward to a constructive discussion, and of course once we leave the EU, our relationship with the 27 member states will continue to be important. They're our closest neighbours, and we will continue to be facing the same challenges and wanting to work together and protecting our values.
In other news, 11 migrants rescued from a small wooden boat were disembarked at the port of Lampedusa on Sunday. They were rescued at sea by Italian authorities after they were tracked by NGO Open Arms rescue ship. The NGO said on Twitter 4 babies and 3 pregnant women were tracked between the 40 migrants on the boat. Women, babies and men with high rates of dehydration were disembarked at the Italian island, where the German captain of the migrant rescue ship Sea-Watch 3, Carola Rackete, is under arrest after she docked a day earlier. After 2 weeks stranded at sea off southern Italy, the 31-year-old Captain Rackete has become a symbol of defiance in Italian media for challenging Interior Minister Matteo Salvini's policy of closing ports to non-government rescue ships. Finally, Nigeria and Israel are marking 60 years of diplomatic relations this year, and the mission in Nigeria says it intends to extend the good relations to other areas, such as pharmaceuticals and agriculture. But while the new Israeli Prime Minister to Nigeria, Mr. Shimon Ben Shoshan, says he looks forward to forging those relations, he says he cannot do much until the Nigerian federal government puts together its cabinet.
We're still waiting, of course, like everybody else, especially for the Nigerian people, to see who are the next ministers, because it's somehow so the economy can move on. But this is, of course, up to the President Buhari and this administration to decide, and when they will decide, of course, it will be also very good for the diplomatic corps to move on and to cooperate for the benefits of Nigeria and the other countries that have their own issues here in Nigeria.
U.S. President Donald Trump has made history. He's become the first sitting U.S. president to set foot in North Korea after meeting leader Kim Jong-un in the demilitarized zone. President Trump posed for handshakes before talking for nearly an hour in the heavily fortified zone, a symbolic milestone. The encounter had been initially scheduled as a short greeting, but the U.S. president and the North Korean leader ended up talking for almost an hour in a building known as the Freedom House on the South Korean side. Leader Kim Jong-un talked about their meeting being a symbol of their excellent relationship. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says there will be another round of talks between the two sides in July. It was a beautiful time for the cameras, but what are the implications? Director General of the Bolitac Center for Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, Professor Bola Akinterinwa, joins us now. Director General of the Bolitac Center for Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, Professor Bola Akinterinwa, joins us now. Professor, thank you for joining us on the program. What do you make of this action by President Donald Trump crossing into North Korea and another meeting between the North Korean leader and himself?
I simply think that it's a question of making changes within continuity. Changes in terms of tactics, tactical foreign policy. But the ultimate objective remains the same. In this case, for instance, the United States simply wants North Korea to engage in an unconditional, comprehensive denuclearization. That is the main pursuit of the US leader, Donald Trump. But North Korea is talking about the principle of legitimate self-defense. Is talking about its own guarantee. How do you guarantee the national security of North Korea? It's not talking about security at the level of the US, to say the US must ensure that North Korea is not subject to any aggression, particularly from the perspective of the United States. So in this case, what is happening is that since the United States has just discovered that intimidation, manu military approach, hostile foreign policy will not make other countries accept. I think Donald Trump simply decided to change tactics, and that is what is happening.
Yeah, but is he on the right side of history with this move, crossing into North Korea, being the first U.S. president to do so, and also meeting with the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un? This will be the third meeting historically.
Well, I can agree with you that historically, he's done something unprecedented. But the issue is that the historicity of the moment is quite far from resolving the problem at stake. As I've said earlier on, now, the mere fact that Donald Trump tries to make some new jests, try to do what had not been done before, will that one mean that America will now set aside the policy of America first? Will that one imply that Kim Jong-un will now simply accept whatever America is proposing? I do not believe in that. It's historical, yes. To go back 1953, 1954, the partitioning of Korea into two, North and South. So it doesn't address the problems of both countries, what they want. However, we can say that the environmental conditioning of peacemaking appears to be improved.
Professor, in whose interest are these meetings taking place? I mean, these are two leaders who have kept up the rhetoric between them, coming as close enough to war, and now they're shaking hands like nothing ever happened. So who's really benefiting from this moment?
I will say that the two of them are benefiting, but North Korea can be said to be benefiting more than his U.S. counterpart. The reason will not be far-fetched. It is the United States that kick-started the whole problem, and it is now the same United States that is now soft-pedaling. So, which means that, look, there's a limitation to the extent to which the United States can go. Now, what is happening is that Donald Trump wants now to negotiate. Now, no more of insulting another sovereign leader, and is most likely to succeed the moment he makes the North Korean leader believe that he also is the equal in terms of the US president and equal in terms of sovereignty of North Korea. Then for Donald Trump back home, he's been given the impression that he's a very tough leader. Right. All right? So, and what his predecessors have not succeeded with, he's now trying to do just that. He is the first, as you rightly pointed out earlier, he is now the first US president since the mid-1950s now to cross to the North Korean territory that is going beyond 8 steps from the demilitarized zones. So this can be significant in itself.
I want to ask a final question, which is the implication this has, for those of us who are watching on the sidelines and for analysts such as yourself who have been monitoring the US and North Korea and the progress that has been made up until this time. What would be the implications of President Donald Trump's actions and North Korea's actions, and how do you see this playing out in the future?
Your question is quite interesting. Interesting from the perspective that the United States is most likely not to dance to the ultimate objective of North Korea. There are two sides. North Korea is interested in the unification of North and South Koreas. Now, South Korea is capitalist oriented. Yeah. North is socialist oriented. Now, the extent to which the Americans will be prepared to have the two Koreas come together remains an issue of speculation. Now, the other issue is also that of a complete denuclearization. Now, North Korea has actually acquired the technological know-how, right, the nuclear know-how. So, if the North Koreans are now accepting to denuclearize, it will be important to know what informed that. I think, and I want to pause it here, that it is simply because of the radioactive leakages in his site that prompted North Korea to quickly accept that, okay, you will negotiate with the Americans in the hope that the time will soon come by the time they will address the leakage. But as it is today, if the United States can accept to stop intimidating or insulting the North Koreans are likely to accept. But we should not forget that North Korea has the blessing, the support of both Russia and China in this particular new struggle for leadership of the world.
Professor Akinterinwa, thank you so much for speaking with us. Always a pleasure having you on Diplomatic Channel. Still ahead on the program, there was one good news from the G20 summit as the US and China suspend trade tariffs. That's in a moment. Please join us again.